That's cool. Okay, so we were talking about an injury you got when fighting in China, and you you just discussed your first fight and how throughout your career you've not been worried about injuries or even death. But you took a pretty nasty injury, getting cracked in the head with a, what was it, shin guards with a metal plate in it.
Yep.
And let's hear a little bit about the injury that that occurred because of that incident.
Um, well, I was in the middle of throwing a punch. He kicked me in the back of the head, dropped me, popped up, ended up stopping him seconds later. But I had a really bad headache. And what was funny was if you watch the tape, I mean, it sounds like a watermelon exploding on the concrete. It was very loud, and it sounded like my skull was fractured. But at the time, I didn't know it was busted. I just thought I got kicked in the back of the head and maybe had a concussion. I actually had a fight the next day, which I did, and luckily survived because when I got back, they told me I got hit in the back of the head again. It would have killed me, and it should have killed me to begin with. It just didn't. Um, so that was pretty crazy, and a lot of people would think you have something serious like that happen, and you're like, all right, I'm not doing this anymore. I could be a vegetable right now. I could be dead right now, but you know, I've always felt like, I mean, bad things happen, especially when you're on the way to do something great. I always feel something horrible often happens on the way to doing really great things. And these are just bumps in the road that either are going to show you whether you really want this or not, or they're going to show you that you don't and you should quit. And I think those things are very important because they show you how bad you want something. If everything was easy, everybody would do it. Whether it's a fight or a relationship or a job. If you quit every time something gets bad or beyond your comfort zone, then maybe you shouldn't be doing this, and maybe you really don't want to as much as you thought you did. But for me, this has been my passion. This has been something that saved my life. This has been something that I've used to help other people change their lives, and I would never give up because I had a little skull fracture.
Just a little skull
Just a
fracture.
little skull fracture.
Just a flesh wound.
I mean, those things are going to happen, and more often than not, they don't. But you have to realize that even if you're fighting with pads on and all this gear, you can get killed. People get killed all the time. In amateur fights, people die. It happens. And if you don't take this seriously, then you're risking a lot of hard times and a lot of heartache. And like I said, more than likely, those things will never happen to anyone, and you'll come out of this okay. But you have to be willing to weigh those risks and rewards. You have to realize that is a possibility every time you step in the ring, every time you step in the gym. I mean, there's plenty of people that have been killed in gyms, sparring or just screwing around, and it's part of the sport, even though it's not a big part, and it does happen, and injuries happen all the time. They might not be super serious. It might just be a little cut or a little knocked out tooth. But, to a lot of people, that's pretty serious. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I've seen people go into the ring and, they think they're safe because they're wearing gear. And I'm just like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't go in there thinking every time I could die. But it should at least be something that you've considered and know that it's definitely a possibility. I mean, every time you get in your car, you could get killed. You probably don't think about that every time you get in your car, but it's got to be something that's crossed your mind before and known that it's definitely possible, and this is something you have to respect. And this sport is something you have to respect. It's very dangerous, and it's very dangerous even if you know what you're doing. One little mistake, one little inch wrong way or the right way could can be good or bad. So um, and so I can only imagine what that regular everyday Joe thinks. They're just like, wow, this is the easiest thing in the world, because all you see is the end result. You see the fight, you see 15 minutes of them hitting each other, and it seems easy. You don't see the years and tears and pain that's gone into getting them there. So you get these people in the gym all the time and say they want to be a fighter. One, they definitely don't want to train as hard as it takes because it's ridiculous. They're like, "Oh, I'm doing the classes. Can I fight now?" No, that's not training for a fight. That's nothing. And then two, once you start getting hit, then you really see if this is something you want to do. Your regular people don't want to be hit. Hitting people's okay. As soon as you get a little aggression in the opposite direction, that it shows people really quick what they're actually made of. It's really easy to sit at home and watch TV and critique all these fighters and sit behind your keyboard and say what you would have done or could have done or what they should have done. But until you're in their shoes and you go through the training and you go through what you have to sacrifice and you go through all these injuries and wins and losses and you go through all that adversity coming at you and being just beaten down constantly, you can't do this. There's no way. There's no way. So have fun with your keyboards.
Is it more mental than you thought it would be when you got into it?
Yeah, for sure. I've always known any high-level sporting activity is very mental, but way beyond what I thought. It's so far in the other direction of how much is actually mental as opposed to skill. People always put numbers on it. I say it's 100%. 100%. Because if you don't have it 100% mentally, you cannot do this. I don't care how technically good you are. If you don't have it mentally, you will never make it. Ever. You'll never make it through the training. You'll never make it through the fight. You'll never make it through the years of ups and downs if you don't have it mentally. So, yeah, it's well beyond 50%, 60%, whatever percent you want to call it, man. I've always said it's 100%. 100% mental. Once you get past that, we can add some skill.